Legendary punk rock The Damned guitarist Brian James has sadly died aged 70. It has been reported the musician died today as tributes have poured in for the rocker. A statement on Facebook posted to his account read, "It is with great sadness that we announce the death of one of the true pioneers of music, guitarist, songwriter, and true gentleman Brian James. Founding member of The Damned, writer of the first ever UK punk single, New Rose, Brian was the principal songwriter of the band's debut album, Damned, 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 which was released in February 1977. Parting ways with The Damned following the release of their second album, the Nick Mason-produced Music for Pleasure, Brian created the short-lived Tanster Youth, before he formed the Lords of the New Church with his friend and fellow rocker Stiv Bators. In a wave of excitement, headed by the twin powers of Brian James and Stiv Bators, 3 successful studio albums followed for the Lord of the New Church, spawning singles such as Open Your Eyes, Dance With Me, and Method to My Madness. Always looking for new challenges and keen to work with different musicians, over the years that followed, Brian formed the Dripping Lips and guested on different records, while creating the Brian James Gang and working on his solo albums. Incessantly creative and a musical tour de force over a career which spanned more than 6 decades, with his music also gracing film and television soundtracks. In addition to The Damned and the Lords of the New Church, Brian worked with a plethora of punk and rock and roll's finest, from Iggy Pop to Wayne Kramer, Stuart Copeland to Cheetah Chrome. Most recently, more than 4 decades after the release of the epic-making New Rose, the original members of The Damned reformed for a series of very special and emotional UK shows in 2022. With his wife Minna, son Charlie, and daughter-in-law Alicia by his side, Brian passed peacefully on Thursday 6th March 2025. Brian's ex-Damned bandmate Raymond Captain Sensible Burns has reacted to the news, sharing a photo of himself with Brian on X, formerly Twitter. Burns wrote, "We're shocked to hear that creator of The Damned, our great chum Brian James, has sadly gone. A lovely bloke that I feel so lucky to have met all those years ago, and for some reason chose me to help in his quest for the music revolution that became known as punk." Brian co-founded The Damned along with vocalist Dave Vanian, bassist Raymond Captain Sensible Burns, and drummer Christopher Rat Scabies Miller in 1976. The band released their debut single New Rose in October of that year, and in February 1977 dropped their debut album Damned, Damned, Damned. The record scored an 8 out of 10 review from NME. In November 1977, the band released their follow-up album Music for Pleasure, with Brian James leaving the band soon after. Following his exit from The Damned, he formed the short-lived Tanster Youth before moving on to join Iggy Pop's touring band in 1979. James then recorded 2 solo singles, Ain't That a Shame and Why, featuring The Police's Stuart Copeland on drums both times in 1979 and 1982 respectively. Next, he started the Lords of the New Church with fellow rocker Stiv Bators. Together, the Lords of the New Church would release 3 albums and 1 EP between 1982 and their split in 1989. In June 1988, Brian James briefly reunited with The Damned for 2 gigs at the London Town and Country Club UK, now renamed O2 Forum Kentish Town. Between 1992 and 1996, James played in the Brussels-based Dripping Lips. In 2001, he joined MC5's Wayne Kramer, Guns N' Roses' Duff McKagan, Stuart Copeland, and Clem Burke to form the supergroup Racketeers and recorded and released the album Mad for the Racket. In 2013, he revisited his Damned material, re-recording 9 songs for his 3rd solo album, Damned If I Do, and performed them throughout the UK with former Damned bandmate Christopher Rat Scabies Miller. In October 2022, James reunited with Scabies, Sensible, and Vanian for 5 Damned shows in the UK. The English rockers first announced their reunion tour in 2020, with dates slated for the following year. However, the shows were later postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic and moved to late 2022. Following the news of his death, tributes have been pouring in honor of the late Brian James. See a few of them below. In a lengthy post to accompany the brief X/Twitter reaction, Captain Sensible reflected on James' impact on his life and career, and added that the original members of The Damned were all up for doing it again too. But that'll never happen now, sadly. He added that today, Friday, March 7th, The Damned will play in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and will dedicate the set and a few of his songs to Brian James, without whom The Damned would never ever have happened. Dave Trigana, who played in Brian James' gang, wrote, "Shocked to hear Brian James passed away. The most talented and original guitarist and songwriter and pioneer of the punk scene. I've known this man for over 40 years and have shared some of the funniest, happiest, wildest creative times in my life. Brian was a true gentleman and wonderful father and husband. He will be missed more than these words can convey." On October 22nd, 1977, 5 weeks before the release of the Sex Pistols' Anarchy in the UK, Stiff Records released The Damned's first single, New Rose, making it the first ever punk single in the UK. Released in February 1977, James was also the primary creative force behind the band's debut album, Damned, Damned, Damned. The Damned was founded in 1976 by lead vocalist Dave Vanian, guitarist Brian James, bassist and later guitarist Captain Sensible, and drummer Rat Scabies. Considered pioneers of the genre, 9 of the band's singles charted on the UK Singles Chart Top 40. With a career that closely mirrored the Sex Pistols, they even planned to audition Sid Vicious as lead vocalist. The Damned played their first show on July 6, 1976, supporting the Sex Pistols at the 100 Club. After the band's second album, James left the band to form the group Tanz der Youth, which only lasted a short time before he founded the Lords of the New Church with Stiv Bators. The band was known for songs like Open Your Eyes, Dance With Me, and Method to My Madness. Other bands the talented guitarist helmed over the years included the Dripping Lips and the Brian James Gang. He was also a successful solo artist and worked with punk and rock icons like Iggy Pop, who he toured with as Iggy's guitarist in 1979, Wayne Kramer, Stuart Copeland, and Cheetah Chrome throughout his 6-decade career. The Damned briefly reunited in their original formation in October 2022, with James, Scabies, Sensible, and Vanian playing 5 Damned shows in the UK. Tributes have poured in for the rocker on social media as one wrote, "Oh no man. Another icon gone. R.I.P. Brian James. New Rose riff forever." Brian was globally recognized influence for his continued role into the band Damned, and the writer of the first ever UK punk single. He is survived by wife Minna, son Charlie, and daughter-in-law Alicia.